A very warm welcome to everybody who's joined the session on a Saturday morning. In case you all had any plans, we're very happy that you all have joined such an insightful session. Basically, grace the presence of somebody like Sanjay sir, who's extremely experienced in this field, who has done, I would say, if not hundreds, thousands and thousands of applications and addressed queries for students all across the world, not only in India. So if there are any students who've also joined outside India, we appreciate you joining from wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much. Do follow us on our social media, which is our Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and reach out to us if you have any more questions. You would be able to interact with us even post the session. And please do remember, if anybody has any questions again during the session, please do put it in the chat box, right? So without any further ado, let's get to the session. So first of all, a quick introduction to Sanjay sir. He has been in this industry for more than 35 years now, worked with not only student visas, but many more visas in the US, not only the US, other countries as well. But obviously, if you do look at his profile, and I would encourage you to go on LinkedIn, Google him, and you'll see a lot of his information coming in for the US Embassy, where he has also worked. He's been an ex-visa officer. So a lot of those insights today will come from him, which will be very raw, very true, in fact, and will help you, a lot of you, because I see a lot of in the chat, there are a lot of people who have gotten rejection. So don't worry. We will be addressing these points moving forward, right? So good morning, sir. Hi, Sanjay sir. Welcome. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. And really a high appreciation for Siddharth and Collegedunia and Khushbu for bringing all this in, because my whole objective is to provide information to the students, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of myth.
A lot of the times, let's say I am writing an exam or a student is writing an exam, we know sort of what we need to prepare for, because there are these boxes that we need to tick. There is an invigilator who's going to check our exam, right? Could you just tell us what is the mindset of a visa officer or somebody who's going to take that interview, and what are they really looking for?
Once you go in for your visa interview, everything moves from your control to the other side, and that's where you really need to understand the unknown, right? And to start with, to understand the unknown, it is very important to understand yourself. That's one. When I say this, it could sound very philosophical, but the fact is that, if I do not know where I'm going, and if I sit in a car, I don't know which direction I would go into. But if I know the direction, then it becomes easier, A, for me to address my route to the visa officer, and then also understanding what is the visa law, because, if I'm driving, then I need to know what are the, the road bumps, what are the red lights, and, how do I address those things? So similarly, if I talk about the visa interview, is the officer's objective is to understand, A, you're a legitimate student. You have a reason to go and study there, right? And I'm going to talk more about this, when I say a legitimate student, what does that mean? And then B, according to the visa law, any student who's applying for a visa is considered to be a potential immigrant until proven otherwise. So that actually means he's looking at three things. He's looking at your social ties, he's looking at your financial ties, and he's looking at your professional goals in India. So these three things have to be addressed. And I also keep telling everyone, you have to provide this information voluntarily.
What is it that they are really going to catch on? Are there any words? Are there any cues? Or are there any, especially the things that they'll absolutely say that, okay, this guy said this, and now I'm going to reject?
There's a huge cultural difference, So there are no ifs and buts there. You've got to be very clear in your conversation, For example, if the officer says, would you like to work in the US? And he says, if I complete my education or if I get an opportunity, I would like to do my, training over there. So the first thing first, the officers, like all human beings, we have our own, data which is stored, and we react accordingly.
Right.
So if I'm saying that, would you like to work in the US? If I start by saying yes, and in the end I say that I want to do a training over there. Oh, no, sir, I meant OPT. So that's not going to work out, So how do you phrase your answer? What is the sequence of your answer is very important, right? So for me saying that I'm moving to America to study, so the officer is catching on the word move in. In India, we say I'm shifting if I have to, shift my base. But in America, moving means that I'm moving, I'm shifting. So I would not say that word.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I would say that I want to go and study in America rather than saying that I'm moving to America to study.
Perfect.
So he's not
Perfect.
even looking at studying, he's looking at moving.
So what is it that they've been trained on? What are some of the things that they're going to surely catch you on? And what is it that they've prepped on, let's say in the US, and how do they then come and settle down here when they are, taking those interviews? Because there are a lot of misconceptions where people have said that, there is probably a Chinese officer or there is somebody who's come from outside, and this person just wanted to reject me, he did it. So, and there's really no understanding behind their do's and what have they really come prepared with. So if you can just shed some light on that, that'll be great.
Right? So the officers are trained in Washington. That's the head office. Like in India, New Delhi is the capital. So they're all trained in Washington. They're all trained according to the visa law. So nobody is trained according to Chennai, or nobody is trained according to Hyderabad or Delhi. So that's one. If you read the visa form, it says, when do you intend to arrive in the US? How long do you intend to stay in the US? Where do you intend to stay? So catch on to that word, intent. Yeah. So now what does that mean? So any interview is subjective. What I say, what you understand could be two different things. However, if I make it simple, if I understand intent, I'm going to study. So what is my intent? Study. Not that, it is affordable. Not that I'm getting full scholarship. Not that, it was easier for me to get into. One of the students came and said, I didn't want to apply to an IIT because it's difficult for me to get into an IIT. So I chose US. Is that a valid answer? And the person comes out and says, the officer did not even ask me a question. He doesn't need to.
2022, 2023, right? There have been almost about 2.6 lakh students who have now gone, and this is like about a 35% increase from last year. And this has only been growing when we look at US, right? And primarily in the past, you've seen countries like Canada essentially being very popular, and that popularity has reduced a bit, and now US has obviously picked up, right? Keeping all of that in mind, are there any significant changes that you've seen in the way people used to prepare? Because the reason why I ask this question is sometimes, students say that my elder cousin or elder brother or uncle or aunt said something, this is how you should prepare. So now I'm going to listen to them and what they've been saying.
I always keep telling everyone, like, we as Indians everyone is a consultant, everyone is an expert. And especially a person who's got a visa already is a super expert. So we can sit here and tell Sachin Tendulkar how to bat. Right? We can sit here and discuss and talk about all those things. However, the most important thing is even Sachin Tendulkar goes back to his coach, right? My uncle could be telling me one, that would be his point of view. So I had two identical twins going and studying, but their goals and aspirations were different.
Right.
So they cannot be giving two answers, and they cannot be giving the same answer for one question, right? So it all boils down to what you want. Again, now if you talk about the culture, American culture, so that's where the whole mix comes in, right? So the American culture is individualistic approach, right? So we've heard this phrase, I need my space, it's my world. So that's coming from the US side, right? So the officer has a mix of Indian culture and American culture, and then that's how the indication comes in from the student. So in 1 minute or 2 minutes, it's in the end, you can figure out, like, if you, Siddharth, can ask two questions and figure out whether he's a legitimate student or not. The visa officers interviewing thousands of people every day. Absolutely. So if you remember what I said, relevant information voluntarily. So give that, frame your answer, drive the interview.
Let's say an analogy to a job interview, I could fail in a job interview, probably do another, and that could keep going on, right? A US visa interview probably doesn't give you that luxury, right? So how would you say that a student should now start, if there is any way that you would say, especially with the number of students that you have counseled as well, is there a particular format that we need to really go with in terms of really preparing for such a tedious task, essentially, if I had to put it?
A lot of people come out and say that, I want to go and do my master's because, and what will you do? I'll come back and have a startup here. So what does that mean? It's very open. It doesn't mean anything for the visa officer. So I'll give you a little example. For example, if I say that, I want to go and, do my master's in computer science because I want to come back and develop let's say an app, because I face this problem when I go out in my car with my family, I cannot find a parking spot. So this is a real problem. Right. However, if I create an app where I can pre-book a parking spot, right, I would be more than happy. And I see this as a problem in India, and I want to come back because I understand the problem. I want to develop this app. How do I develop it? How do I market it? How do I make this into a business model? And how do I sustain it and scale it up? All this, I want to go back to the US and learn and come back. And that's the reason I've chosen this. So I come down to this point, whenever a student is looking at a university, if he's looking at to go and study abroad, he must know what will he study there? What are the programs? What are the skill sets? How will he use those skill sets back home? Right? So that's the key point. So everything is driven. I would say the hero of the entire script is the course content.
Perfect. So very quickly, let me just sort of dial this a little back. You've said there is obviously an intent, right? Which is very clear. But there is also a method to the madness, as you've obviously displayed now, right?
Right.
Now, the student probably is not only thinking, in certain cases, students have already applied. Maybe they've just applied because they had to. They did it. And now maybe they've already faced a rejection. That's one sort of a student who could be there. There could be another student who's probably seen other students being rejected and is probably now afraid to sort of even think about the US, but is very keen on going because probably it's the right course that they want to pursue, or it's the right university for them, but they're just too scared to do it, right? And I'm sure there are many more such different cases that we can come up with, right?
In case if any of the student has faced rejection, first thing is needless to worry, because you've not lost everything. Because when you go in for the next interview, the internal regulation says that a person who's already interviewed the student, and if he by chance lands there, the officer will make sure that he goes to another visa officer so that he gets a fair chance.
And they have a personal bias against me, or I come from a particular state in India, so this person, I went to another city, which is in another state, right? And that's why I probably got failed. Now, do these sort of things play any impact on what the result is going to be?
If somebody is going to a surgery and a surgeon has a bad mood, what would he do? Will he just like cut him through and say, okay, fine, get lost, I had a fight with my wife? Look, these guys are professionals. These guys are professionals. They're trained, right? A person has to, like in India, a person has to be an IFS officer who has to crack the UPSC and be at the top of the IFS, then the IAS and all that. These guys are trained, So whether it's a morning or an evening, once he sits at the window, he's a professional. He has to look at the visa law. And let me also get you one more thing, which is very important that I keep telling everyone is, if the embassy is there to refuse visas, do you believe that they should have an embassy? I mean, I would go through, all those exams, all that training, and come to a third country to sit down there and refuse. No, they're trained how to issue visas. We have our evaluation every year, right?
Yeah.
If one officer is only refusing, what would be the evaluation in the end? Are we thinking about that? No, we are not. Wonderful. Because we're thinking it affected me, this guy is...
Absolutely.
Right? There's an evaluation report, and if I see that this guy is issuing like 100%, this guy is refusing like, left, right, and center, so there's some decision problem. So how would you counter that? I hear these questions a lot. So good that we're addressing it here at a larger platform where people need to understand there's an organization. They have an evaluation report. A person is evaluated.
Right.
And then his promotion happens. Will I jeopardize because I don't like his dress?
Absolutely.
I can't.
Is there a quota that the visa officers are looking at? We need this. Last year there were 2 lakh students. This year we will only take 2.5 lakhs. There's no way we are taking more. Or could be we only take 1.5 lakh students. So is there a quota that they're looking at?
So first is there is no quota for students.
There is a question that somebody asked, which is what is an I-20?
So every country has their own different way of providing you the final offer letter, which is called the admission offer. So every country has a different format. For the US, The I-20 is once when you start working on your application, identifying the universities, and then writing the SOPs and the LORs and sending it through. And once the admission comes through, then you have to send in certain documents that the university would ask. Once those documents are sent, and if they meet the requirement, then the final offer letter from the US university would come, is called as I-20.
So if there is no quota, why is it then that there is a problem? Now, you said that there is an internal problem in slot bookings and things like that. So why does this come up? And why is there, like, if you see like a rejection, there is a refuse slots that come out, right, later. And then there is a fresh slots that come in, right? Why does the system exist in the first place? And how do you also maneuver within this entire ecosystem that is already in place?
I mean, like any organization, any government, there could be a policy change. They could be working on major policies because they also understand the numbers that went last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also keep working through their own internal information that the numbers would definitely go up. So they have to have the right kind of trained people there. They need to have the systems in place because we're only looking at the visa applicants, right? But the visa officers, the US is looking at various other things which are internal. Like we said in the beginning, I cannot discuss, beyond a certain point. So there are a lot of things which goes into it. So the systems have to be in place. So they are working internally to, also put in more security features so that, people outside are not selling those visa appointments, and they want students and they want the whole process to ease out. The only thing is, like, because I want an appointment and I keep searching for a person who can get me an appointment, then creates this market.
Got it.
So I keep telling students, have patience. If you can't get, he can't get it, because there's only one system. You cannot bypass the system to get a visa appointment.
Let's say 8 students who want to go to, let's say, UMBC or let's say NYU or something. And all these students will go together and they'll do it. So you have to find this agent who probably is sitting in Hyderabad or Delhi or somewhere, and you pay them extra money, let's say 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever that amount is. And then you'll get those slots and they are off the market. You will not find them anywhere normally.
So my first thing is, like, I totally discourage that. I said, like, if a student is in the system, he should keep looking for the appointments. And like I said, they're now trying to put in a lot more securities. And if you look at their website, they've said it very clearly that, they're trying to discourage that. And I've also seen students, those who have taken appointments from outside, the visa officers question them that, how did you get this appointment?
Okay.
And then they're also going to, I mean, I because I've worked with the US Embassy, in the non-immigrant visa section. I was heading the anti-fraud unit for a long time, where I used to go and catch people, and then became the visa specialist. So there are a lot of tabs which are being created and kept in those ups and all that kind of thing. So first is, I discourage. Please don't get into that. So they should have timelines in mind. If they create those timelines and if they adhere to those, then the journey becomes easier. If you're starting late, if you're getting your I-20 late, if you want to start your appointment late, then of course, then you are in a crunch. Then you're looking at way out. Then you're getting desperate. So create a timeline for yourself. Have that calendar in front of you. This is my college start date. Let's say that most of the colleges in the fall would start in August, September. So again, it's simple. What's your intent? I want to go study and come back. So if you have that kind of thing, I want to go and study in America. My timeline are these. So I should have my I-20, let's say by March, April, and then I start. So then you have a lot of time to, get your appointments.
Are there any quick fixes, like, okay, this is what you need to be ready with, or this is what I need to say, you need to say when this is asked? Anything like that that you could say, sort of, to make this work for a lot of students?
Absolutely. First tip, and the trick is, keep it simple. Don't complicate it. Right? Fast food, junk food will always harm you. So don't go in for quick fixes. Right? If you are hurt, a band-aid would just give you a relief. A bandage would give you it will heal you. You have to take the medicine. You have to go through the process. So the whole thing, what I'm trying to figure it out is, like, if you want to really ease out the process, A, start early. B, be at it. Be consistent. I mean, I start my process today and then I just leave it, and then suddenly I get up and say, okay, my SOPs are not ready. when will my admission come? Be at it, have a timeline. If you create those timelines for yourself, and if you diligently and religiously do that, the journey is, the US visas are the easiest visas to get. The whole process, if you understand, is easy. Your interview at the embassy is only for 2 minutes. And 99.9% would agree with me that the visa officer, when I went for the interview, did not even look at my documents. Right? Whereas for other countries, like if we talk about UK, Canada, you have to have a whole lot of documents, you have to send those documents. But US visas are the easiest visas to get, but you complicate it, right? Keep your documents in place and make your intention very clear. Figure out how will this education help you achieve your career objectives? How will you find, how do you make this thing better for other people? Perfect. If you can clear those out, it's going to be very simple for the visa officer to give you a visa.
I have, let's say, 3 or 4 visa rejections. Okay. Is it simple now for me to get a visa approval?
Absolutely. I've seen people even getting, after 7, 8 rejections, still getting the visas, because he was making a fundamental mistake. He didn't know what to say and how to say it. He was just going and repeatedly doing that same thing and expecting a different result. You have to have a different approach for a different result. You can't be doing the same thing. So that again brings to the point that, yes, change is inevitable. You have to keep changing. We have to look at what happened last time and how do I address it this time. He can keep reapplying for his visa, and I'm sure. And okay, and also the other myth is like, if I apply twice, will I get blacklisted? No. Unless you're changing your story, unless you're changing various things, like, I was going to this university, now I'll go to another university. Oh, I was going for this program, now I'll go for a different program. Oh, I went to Chennai, let me go to Mumbai. No. If you keep doing this, in our world of visa, we call it visa shopping.
Are there any other biases or things that you've heard which you want to address right now? Like, okay, this is something, there is nothing like this that is out there. Anything that you want to sort of say over there?
I had a gentleman who was posted in Kashmir.
Okay.
Right? He was from Special Forces.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yep. And his name directly matched with a very popular extremist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was like, I will never get a visa. Why? Because when you read the DS-160, the questions are, do you know how to use firearms? Yes. He's from the Special Forces.
Yeah.
Have you been involved in any conflict? Yes. Do you know how to make bombs? Yes. That guy still got a visa. He did his MBA, and when he went to the US, he called me from there. That I remember, Mr. Kaushik, you told me that it's not an issue, and I had all those myths and all those baggage that hey, I will never get a visa.
Right.
To get the visa questionnaire, but I got my visa because you had a clear direction that you gave me, that focus on your intent to study, focus on your intent to elevate your skill sets, and how would you help him. So again, all these are myths, like if there's a person from a special ethnicity or from a different region, no. Or are there quotas? No. Is mornings good or afternoons bad, or no. They're professionals. They understand, like a student is going to go and study there, like I also said in the beginning, they are also trained how to handle people, those who are nervous. They're human, they understand, the person who's in front of them is pretty nervous. All right? No.
So let's say I get a rejection from, I applied to Canada, for example, or I applied to the UK, I got a rejection, right? Which is tough to actually get in the first place. Does that have a negative impact on if I'm going for a student visa, US? No. Right?
So once again, like, the officer is looking at you afresh. He wants to, if you applied to Canada, if you got rejected, they have their own, immigration policy, they have their own, standards. So if you're going there, they'll ask you questions pertaining to your profile, pertaining to, like, but you should be definitely ready, in case if this question pops up, how do I answer that? Yes, for sure. But will it affect? No, it will not. Adversely, no.
Let's say I get a J1 or another, even an L1, for example, or some other visa that I've applied for, or H1B or something like that, and I got a rejection there, right? Again, do I stand a chance to get my student visa done? And because this is the US we're talking about, does that have any negative impact? Because again, it could look like, and this question has come across, right? It could look like I'm sort of trying to run there. I'm finding different ways to get there, right? probably the sea route didn't work. Now I'm taking a flight, right? So something like that. Does that have any impact again?
The visa categories that you mentioned,
Yeah.
in that, if a person gets refused, that's rare. It's the rare of the rarest.
Yes.
With the J1, the L1, or the H1. So I'll put this question in a different manner. So for example, that I recently had a call. The person said that a company in the US filed for an H1 for me, and it did not get picked because they had certain RFEs on it. Yeah, I mean, he would have the data, but then he'll ask you a question like, you applied for an H1. So the company wanted me to come and work there. It was a great opportunity because I would still get some global exposure and get some work culture. But masters were always on my mind. I would have done this masters to elevate my skill sets. The H1 would only give me the job experience, but the skill sets I would have still done a masters.
Sort of on a lighter note, are there any funny things that you've come across, whims or essentially any other quirks of people that you would have seen during this entire process? Because I'm sure there have been so many different cases that you have faced. So yeah.
Lots of stories, like, we can sit down and discuss those stories, but one that really stands out to me is there was this brilliant student who went and applied for his visa and unfortunately got his visa refused because, again, he could not articulate the answer. And when he came to me, we started his application. And then during one of the conversation, he said that, in fact, my brother who went and studied and came back and is currently, helping my dad. So I said, so where did he go? He said he went to, one of the universities, let's say ASU, do his master's. I said, okay. And then, so this is my family business and this is how he's contributing. So I told him, did you tell this to the officer? He said, no, the officer didn't ask me this.
Again, thank you so much to everybody for joining in on a Saturday morning. I'm sure some of you may have had working days as well. You've taken out your time to be here with us. And moving forward, as I've said, we're going to have a lot more such sessions. But sort of to sum it up, I think it's very simple. You got to keep it simple. Stick to the deadlines, start early. And with starting early, obviously, please keep in mind that this is the right time now to apply to US universities. Currently, we have already said this before, but we have a dedicated team for that who are very experienced as well. Sanjay sir is obviously there to support us. So any questions that you have along the way, we would be more than willing to help you connect and answer all of those questions moving forward. Again, I would want to say a big thank you, and Sanjay sir, to you once again. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we will be having a lot more such sessions, and wishing you all the best, sir, for everything as well. And see you very soon.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. Thank you, Khushbu, and thank you, Collegedunia team. I think you're doing a wonderful job because I get approached by a lot of people, a lot of agencies saying that, can you come on board and things like that. And, but what Collegedunia is doing, I'm really, really, really impressed and really, appreciating your work, because organizing such events would really ease out the stress on the student, because students are I would say that, kind of lost in the maze of the visa process, the admission process, and also looking at the right kind of guidance, So these kind of webinars that you've conducted, which is providing information and also hand-holding the students, is a brilliant thing, So I would say, I would congratulate the team. I would congratulate Siddharth and, the entire team for organizing such events. Thank you very much. I would love to, also have these kind of series also, very, very focused and concentrated on various topics, which is going to also help students. And also, I also learned a lot of things from you all, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me all that opportunity. Great. So great. And wishing all the students, thank you so much and all the very best. Thanks, Siddharth, and thanks, Steve. You take care.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to everybody who joined the call. Thank you to the team. And we're looking forward to many more such sessions. Thank you so much.